company that has all of our trust in so long time because it's one of the, the IT company is Microsoft. And Roger Müller is joining us. I see you here already, Roger. Welcome on the panel. Thank you so much. You're going to talk about the customer stories that you have been through, the experience that you have with your customers in the last couple of months under the COVID-19 crisis. We're looking forward to hear from you, and you have the floor. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Dominic, for the introduction. So good morning, good afternoon, and thank you, Dominic, for having me and Microsoft here, also as new members of the Swiss Factory. I'm very pleased to share some insights how we see the new normal and how our customers are dealing with the situation. And I mean, we are in a crisis, but every crisis also is a chance if we embrace it and turn it into an opportunity. And that's what I would like to share with you in the next 20 minutes. I want to share a couple of customer examples and customer stories in typical manufacturing scenarios. But maybe first, let's have a look how COVID-19 is shaping the new normal across industries, actually, not only in the discrete manufacturing, but in any other industries. And we all have seen the impact COVID-19 has on uncertainty, disruption, and also the physical distancing, the impact that has internally, but also to our customers. But I think more important, it's the durable shifts this impact will have in manufacturing. So we will see more agile manufacturing and small scale modular plants in the future. We have touched already a couple of times. Resilience in the supply chain becomes more important. We need to understand early signals when something is going wrong in our supply chain to anticipate actually the impact in our production and even further to our customers. But I also think operator augmentation and automation will increase dramatically in the near future, and we see that already. How companies empower their workforce, the first line workers, for example, on the shop floor, but also workers in a service center, for example, with new technologies, so they can stay current in the business. And last but not least, reskilling of the workforce becomes the new normal, because with technology, we also will see a shift in new jobs. Jobs will disappear, but new jobs will also appear. And I think that's important, also the responsibility of every company to look at these things. As Microsoft, we're a technology company, and of course for technology companies, data is, as Dominic said before, data is the new oil. And I would even go one step further and saying data is the new crude oil, because data for itself, as you see, and I very much like this picture actually, it's not the question, how do we get data? There are tons, billions of data points we can collect from different sources. But the challenge is actually how we turn this data into meaningful insights, how we sort this data, how do we arrange it for different stakeholders. Because if you think of a global plant manager, he needs another aggregation level of data than probably the shift leader in a specific plant. But it should be the same source, and it should be on real-time data, so everyone speaks about the same thing. And we don't have time to dive into a very complex CSV files in data. It has to be presented visually that everyone understands the data. And I think that's where we can do a lot with technology. And that's where what we called the digital feedback loop comes in to the game. So how do we turn data into action? And as I said, data are coming from different sources. That could be signals from our customers. If you think of a planning a process in sales and operations planning, for example, with shorter demand cycles, how do we anticipate actually the future demand of our customers, and how do we transform that into information for our operations, for our procurement, so our suppliers also have early signals what they have to produce and by when. And I think the importance here is, as we collect data from these different sources, from products, employees, operations, it's the insights we generate with that. That's where data analytics, machine learning, algorithms comes into the game. And then the third step is then actually, how do we turn back this intelligence data towards our employees, that they can do better decisions, faster decisions, and do their job better. And if you look at the role of data, we see actually 3 maturity steps. And I would say most of the industries are somehow in between phase 1 and 2, connecting devices, getting visibility on the shop floor and on their devices. So really seeing what is happening and visualize that, so people can analyze that in a better way and in a faster way. That could be a Power BI based on real-time data. It's also transforming the way we are operating, having the same data source, so we don't need to prepare a lot of reports which might be added with additional information, and everyone has different information. The second step is then when it really comes to understand what's behind. So if I take OEE as one of the KPIs in manufacturing, which shows me how the productivity of my production line or even my production is, that's a good thing. But if the OEE is lowering down by time, I need to understand why is that. So I need to understand what are the root causes and also the impacts this information has. And that's where predictive comes into the game, with predictive maintenance, where we also predict demand or future failures, with also in the quality management, for example. And the third step, I would say, which is on the front and it's coming, it's the prescriptive phase, where we really turn the data in new service models. So where, for example, we can not only sell a product, thinking of a compressor who is compressing air, we are not selling this compressor anymore. We actually provide our customers compressed air. So it's a completely different model, an outcome-based contract we have with our customers. And that gives, of course, new possibilities also in certain areas, in the pricing, in the service model, but also how we produce our products and how do we get the information back from the installed base. So connecting installed products and harvest this data will be becoming much more interesting and important to provide first the engineers that they can bring a next generation of the product much faster and better, but also, as I said, turning that into new business models. So what are the areas where we see an impact from COVID-19? And we from Microsoft, we see 5 areas actually, from transforming the workforce, and we all know collaboration with Teams or Zoom or other collaboration tools became evident actually to really be stable in the business. And we will see that for the next couple of months and even for the next years, working in a hybrid mode from home, but maybe also then hopefully get back to our customers and having more interaction with our colleagues. But it's also about training, reskilling, as I said. So it's really how do we enforce our workforce with new technologies. The second part is then how we engage our customers in new ways. For example, if you think of a call center, right, in the COVID time, they have an overburden of calls to manage. So how can we help them with intelligent bots, for example, to focus on really the critical calls and provide the customers with, let's say, more standardized answers when it's not that dramatic and not that important. But it's also how do we do more remotely. If you think of a field service organization, that could be a Schindler with their technicians which are going out to repair elevators. How can we support them doing more remotely, because they probably cannot access anymore the customers' buildings. And the third element is really the resilience of supply chains, which has been mentioned, and I'll give you an example afterwards. It's more important that we model, that we simulate potential issues in an early stage, so we can anticipate what are the impacts and we can start acting instead of reacting. And the fourth element is how do we build these agile factories? Refactoring, and I give you an example later on, which is important, but also given the, not only driven by COVID, but driven by the customer expectations, we have smaller batches, we have more personalized or regionalized products, which is decreasing the size of a batch or a production lot. So we have to manage changeovers in a more effective way. And this will, of course, then also drive the profitability or the productivity of a plant. And last but not least, specifically for Switzerland, it's important, you know, that we stay innovative, that we keep our engineers working, even they have to work from home, and bringing new products, and not only products, but digitized, enabled products and new service models into the market. And I think these are the 5 areas where we see a lot of traction right now. And I would like to share a couple of examples with you in each of these areas. And the first example is actually SNCF, the French railway. As part of their ongoing efforts to improve business productivity, they sought to better include employees in digital solution development. So really include the frontline workers from the beginning in building up new solutions. And they called the initiative Digital for All. And to achieve this goal, the company adopted the Microsoft Power Platform, which is a combination of Teams as the collaboration hub, but also elements like Power BI to visualize data in an easy manner. And the third element, Power Flow, which is actually a workflow tool where everyone can build their own application. So that's how we call it democratizing the building of applications, because everyone can do that with a low no-code application. So they built up around 150 apps already to simplify and streamline tasks in the day-to-day business. And one of those example is in the area of training. And you know, in these times where you cannot physical do classrooms trainings anymore, and you see on the top left right corner how they scheduled trainings, how they gave training manuals to the frontline workers to repair bogies actually for, you know, the rails in a traditional way, but that doesn't really work anymore. So we have to think of alternative and how do we train our people in a more digitized, remote way. And that's what SNCF actually has done. And besides that, the workers have developed their own apps and reduced dramatically the time to prepare trainings and also conduct trainings. There was a massive increase of quality of the outcome when they have been trained to do this to these bogies. So whenever there is a labor-intense process with a lot of activities, we clearly can bring that down and equip our employees actually with new tools, with additional information they probably don't have or they need to search for, which then needs time. And I think this is a good example of how we empower employees to do their work better and faster. The second example in how we engage customers in different ways is the example of ASML. And ASML is the leading company in the semiconductor industry, producing equipment for the chip making companies. So if one of their machine is going down for a day, the cost for a chip maker could run into millions. And ASM machines are complex and of the size of a bus. Traditionally, the engineers are visiting customers for installation and maintenance. But as COVID came into the game, travel restrictions due to Corona meant that some of their customers and the support of the engineers cannot be done on site anymore. So they had to find ways how they can support their customers in this clean room, because you cannot access a clean room from 1 minute to another. There's a lot of preparation work before. So what they found is actually using HoloLens and remote assist solutions from Microsoft is one way they can support the on-site customer if there is a breakdown. Having a specialist sitting somewhere in the Netherlands and providing instant assistance and providing additional information, and that could be via speech, that could be including documentation which helps to fix a problem on site. And that really helped ASML during this crisis to be very close to their customers and keep their customers' business running. The third element is a resilient supply chain, and we have heard that already a couple of times. And for me, resilient supply chain has three elements. The first one is how do we get visibility end to end from our customers, and not only when from our suppliers, sorry, and not only when they have shipped it, but also in the transit. Where is my raw material? What happens with my raw material? And I think that was the missing part during COVID, where many of suppliers, of course, also had to shut down their factories. But me as a customer, I didn't know, is my raw material now on the way? Do I get it at the right time, or do I need to reshuffle off also my own production? And what's the impact to my customers? The second element is then, of course, the planning part. As I said, demand cycles are shortening. The batch sizes are also shortening, meaning we have much more orders on a short term, which creates, of course, also complexity in how do we plan and how do we anticipate what we have to produce and what have we to order in our customers. And that's finally driving also the inventory management, because there are two ways. Either I have a very good view on my supply chain so I can lower my inventory, or I need to have safety stock to at least balance a couple of days. And this is what Electrolux, as one of the leading companies for white products like washing machines, has done. They use actually machine learning and real-time visibility of their components, so they really see if there is an issue somewhere. And you see a couple of screenshots here, so that the procurement and the planning people know exactly where to look at. Where do I have an upcoming issue? What customer order is impacted? What are the options I have? Can I provide the product from a different distribution center? Do I need to ramp up my own production? What are alternative scenarios? And using machine learning and even artificial intelligence helps to think in scenarios so you find the best solution for your company and also for the customer finally. The fourth scenario is building more agile factories. And you might have heard of the ventilator challenge in the UK, where a consortium of different companies came together early in the COVID crisis to build up ventilators. And it's a story of how a group of rival companies came together to make ventilators for the NHS during the COVID-19 pandemic. And for me, it's a great story that even you're competing in certain areas, if there is really the need to work together, we can make it. And the task actually, this consortium where you had, for example, Rolls-Royce, Airbus, Unilever, Ford, McLaren, but also consultancy firms and Microsoft bringing their capabilities, their technology, their very specific technologies together to speed up the production from 50 ventilators a week to 1,500 a week. And this is typically something which will happen in 2 years. And this consortium got it in 2 months. And you can imagine what that means in terms of providing the raw materials, the components, bringing up the supply chain to speed and scale it to this massive output. You have to train people in a automotive company how to produce a medical product, which is probably a different thing, because you also have regulators, you have restrictions how you do it. And that's where technology came into the game, also with HoloLens, but also how you train these people in a very short time frame that they are actually able to do that. And we have other examples also in Switzerland, how we refactoring actually the purpose of a plant, thinking of Lonza, for example, in their plant in Visp, where they started to produce disinfection material, which was not the purpose of the plant, but they switched immediately because there was a demand, and they were agile enough to provide this kind of offering. And the last example I would like to share with you is in the area of engineering. And how do we unlock innovation and deliver new services? And I don't know who has engineers in their companies, but working from home for an engineer is quite a difficult task, because doing the same thing then you can do on-prem on a laptop, it's not enough, because you just don't have the capacity or the calculation capacity. So you need the cloud to get access to your typical CAE tools, to the simulation tools you're using. You need to collaborate and exchange with your colleagues, which might be sitting somewhere in China or in Korea, and share large documents, large files. And that's not possible anymore in an effective way if you don't have a connection to the cloud. But I think it's much more of that. And the example of Airbus is a good example how to bridge the engineering world from ideation down to the kind of ideal product with the physical work in world in production. Because, and I'm an engineer of my from my profession, and I know you know, when you have designed a new equipment or something, you have to test it, and that's time consuming, and sometimes it's also quite difficult. And Airbus is using, for example, HoloLens to do product qualification for new elements for the airplane. So the engineer is going down to the production. He is augmenting, for example, the assembly of a tube in a very tiny environment, and he sees actually where there is an opportunity to improve the situation for the frontline workers, for example, or where there is a potential issue then for the product when it's in use. So for Airbus, it dramatically reduces the time for product validation by 80%, and also to do complex tasks during the assembly by 30%. And you can imagine what that means in terms of time to market, being earlier in the market with a good product which doesn't really have a quality issue at the end. And then, of course, there are much more examples, but given the time, I thought I will share one example for each of these scenarios. And with that, I'm open for Q&A. And thanks again, Dominic, for the opportunity to share some insights.
Thank you, Roger, for being with us and sharing your experience in the crisis. I think, yeah, it's great to see how Microsoft contributes to helping all these companies participating in the ventilator challenge and all of that. Now, also, thank you for making up a little of the time because we were a little late, but now I would say we switched the coffee break. But before we finish the session on data sharing with the interesting perspective from Microsoft, I would like to ask David or also the participants if there are any questions to Roger.
I mean, more as a commentary, right? I really like this joint approach, you know, about process technology and people that Microsoft is promoting with its customers, about empowering the workforce with digital technologies to stay close to operations, to stay close to the customer. So we really applaud this approaches that really put the people, the customer, the workers at the heart of all the potential that exists of using all these new enabling technologies to still be successful in the new normal.
It's exactly what we think empower every person in every organization to achieve more. That's our mission, and if we can help with technology, then we are there.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Roger. That ends actually our first session on collaboration and data sharing despite local lockdowns. And with no further delay, we jump over the coffee break and go actually into our second session on remote technologies and the trend towards remote technologies for knowledge sharing. And I'm extremely thrilled that we have Thomas Zürcher here on board, the CEO of the company MyLifeZone, which they do groundbreaking work in terms of remote training for industries. Thomas, are you there?